And I've always said about politics, political choices, is it's more important to look at the person than it is to look at the party. And there's examples of that, prime examples of that across the board. Like RFK has now been, named for, basically in charge of everybody's health and nutrition and stuff. This is a guy who famously cut the head off of a whale and strapped it to the roof of a minivan. This is a true story from his daughter. And they had to wear trash bags over their clothes, the kids, because the ropes had to go through the windows. A whale's head on a minivan driving down the road. And people were flipping off the family because of what he did. He chainsawed. He did that. This is the guy that Trump just... Okay. Brags about eating roadkill right off the roads. Walks barefoot through airport bathrooms. And this is not... But the Food and Drug Administration does need a redo. The government is not protecting food like it should. Monsanto and all that other crap. There is a reason why there are a lot of American foods that are very popular in America that are banned in every other country in the world. There is a reason why America's health is as bad as it is, and it has a lot to do with the foods. And that the better for you foods are 10 times more expensive. All of that is something that needs to be adjusted. So I agree with him on that, but a lot of people do. So if someone like that were to get in the office, it's like someone like Donald Trump, protecting the women. There's obvious questions because of the history and because of who these people are as people, who they've been proven to be as people. Kennedy took a baby bear because he was that was hit by a car somewhere, drove like 3-4 hours and I guess had something to do that night. So just decided to leave the baby bear in Central Park. And I lived in New York. Bears don't hang out in New York. It's just not a thing. That was him. Matt Gaetz, under investigation for drug-fueled parties with underage girls, taking them across state lines, the very definition of trafficking and abuse and others, being nominated to be Attorney General, what's known as America's top cop. This is a guy whose ethics investigation report was supposed to come out this week, detailing his crimes against minors. Like, this is real stuff. His best friend testified against him and gave pictures and evidence. This is a guy that was walking around our House of Representatives showing videos and pictures of underage girls to other Congress people and senators. And he still has a job. There was a gentleman in England, it's my favorite story about the Parliament, who was caught by two women sitting behind him in Parliament, looking over his shoulder, and I guess there was adult stuff on his screen. Within 24 hours, he was fired and replaced. He didn't even get to go tell his wife yet what had happened. He wanted to tell her in person, justifiably so. So he was on his way to his house at the end of the day after getting fired immediately, just from 2 complaints. And there were news people lined up in his front yard, and his wife was inside and had no idea what had happened. That's how England handled things. Matt Gaetz still has a job. Lauren Blobert, Miss Beetlejuice herself, still has a job. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who showed naked pictures of the, at the time, vice president's son, or president's son, on national TV, and she still has a job. And isn't she being named for something to do with the Board of Education? Marjorie Taylor Greene. Jewish space lasers and hurricanes or remote control and Democratic, yeah, that one, in head of the Department of Education, which is being torn apart and thrown away anyway. So, I mean, that's not a big deal. But, I mean, the good reason why that should be happening is because, it's, it funds all these other programs like special education and after-school programs and stuff like that. But that's important because let's look at the people. And then Kristi Noem, head of Homeland Security, replacing a 4-star general with lifetime experience. Kristi Noem, so if we're attacked by dogs that bark too much, goats or horses will be just fine. And Elon Musk, Ramaswamy, pales in comparison to the man himself, Donald Trump. The man who since the 80s, since the 70s, has done things in his life that paint a very, 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 very clear, crystal clear picture of who this man actually is. But because he is brilliant at media manipulation and people manipulation, he got his way into the White House with a lot of debt hanging on his shoulders. That debt belonged to other places, which is becoming more apparent now. But that is who he is. Has nothing to do with politics at all. There is zero of my statement and my feelings towards that man that has to do with politics. I have personal experiences with him himself in a club level. It has to do with him as a human being. He has always been really shitty to women. Always been. He's always not paid people he hired to do anything. He always looked for excuses not to pay them. And even though one of my first videos here about those experiences, I got thousands of responses from people who worked for him, never got paid, people who went out of business because they didn't get the $1 million check they were supposed to get for doing the work, building the Taj Mahal or whatever. That's who this man is. That's who he has always been. So when all the anger was stirred up from the freaking podium because of the product, Donald Trump, that he created and others helped him create, because of that product and people's dire belief in the product of Donald Trump. He's not a person, he's a product. He thinks of himself that way, so don't get pissed at me for saying it. That's who he is. We need to stop thinking politically and start looking at people for who they are. Voting for them for who they are, because that letter doesn't mean shit. If it's someone who's out for themselves, they will always be out for themselves. So every decision they make will be revolving around them being out for themselves. What decision has Donald Trump made in his history, in the public eye, when people were paying attention? Which is sad, because when people knew him from back then, we've been paying attention forever. We've known who Donald Trump was since the 80s, since the 70s. You guys are just learning. That's why there are a lot more people that don't like him than like him. And that's also why New York and New Jersey doesn't vote for him. Because that's where his businesses are. Put 2 and 2 together, people. It's about the freaking person. So when they're talking about these people getting jobs, we have to look at who these people are. And the people on the Democratic side, Mr. Joe Biden, since he was 29, dedicating it to service of this country, whether you like him or not, that was his whole life. Kamala Harris, whether you like it or not, her whole life is a prosecutor standing up for people, fighting for right versus wrong, even if you don't agree with what she's done all the time. That has been her life. Do you think either one of those people, for who they are, do you think either one of them are going to walk away from an election with this many red flags, with this much evidence that's coming up every single day? Do you think with more than 2 months left, this is where it's going to stand? Donald Trump is showing his true colors. He's pissing off his own people. The Democrats are sitting back, gathering evidence, ready to drop it on him. You can bet this isn't over yet. Stay diligent, stay educated, and be kind, because we are all in this together. And in the words of Madam President Kamala Harris. We